Hi everyone and welcome back. Today being Africa Day 2024, I am finally going to release the walkthrough tutorial of how I built this AFCON dashboard in Microsoft Excel. AFCON is the African football tournament that comes around once in 2 years, I believe. And I built this dashboard showcasing the history of the tournaments, the wins, the players, the countries that have hosted, and a few fun facts. So this dashboard, the source data is from Wikipedia, and I'm going to show you how I brought in all that data from Wikipedia and created this dashboard in Excel. So first things first, on the sheet I'm going to build on, I create 4 distinct sections because the dashboard I finally built has 4 distinct sections. There's a section that showcases all the tournament years, the host countries and the winners and the flags of the winners. That's the section to the leftmost corner of the screen, of the sheet or dashboard if you will. Then there's a section that allows you to select a year, and then you see the details of who hosted that year, who won that year, was the gold, silver, bronze, who was first, second and third place, and the scoreline for the last 2 games. The third section gives the ability to select a country and then see the stats for that country, all the years, across all the years the tournament has held. And you can see what position the country took, whether they participated, they came in first, second, third place, they made it to quarterfinals, group stage, and you can see the details of that country as well. And then the final 4th section of the dashboard shows fun facts about the AFCON tournament. Unfortunately, I lost the footage for the 4th section of this dashboard, but however, I have showed how to build lists that enable you to scroll using the scroll bar functionality and changing the information available, and I will link a video where I did that in my one of my previous videos. So I've not been speaking to what's happening on the screen because, as you will notice, I later changed direction. Initially, for the first section, I wanted to have a scrolling list so that that's the section that has all the whole details of the tournament in one view, the years of the tournament, the host countries, and the winning flag. I wanted that to be a scrolled list, but I changed direction and then I made it a full-on list that is available in one view. You can see all the details from 1957 to the most recent tournament, 2021. Well, I built this just before, while the 2024 tournament was going on in February, so the 2024 details are not in yet. So I'm showing here now how I brought in some of the tables from Wikipedia. I used the import data functionality, import from a web link or web page, and that's how we brought that in. But for the date table just before that, the tables on columns A to G in this data sheet, I did a simple copy and paste function. So this is where I do the most data processing. Over here where you can see me working on the flags. Each flag, the flags are going to be dynamic, so you notice that I put all the different flags and make sure that they all fit into one cell each, and then I'm naming the cell that they are in. I'm naming the cell range, the name of the country, so that it's easy to reference the flag, so that when I type in the name of that country, it brings up the flag. And I do this, it's my whole dynamic range. I'm essentially setting up dynamic ranges with the flags. So I'm now moving over to the second section that allows you to select a year, and then you see the details of the year. You see the host country, you see the winning country, and then you see first, second and third place. And I'm doing all of that, well, essentially inserting text, creating the placeholder or the template, which is just inserting text and then changing the background color, and then working with the font size and the font style to get the dashboard effect that you see in the final view. Now I'm going to go over to I keep working on that placeholder and the template, getting that section ready to bring in all the dynamic elements. When I make reference to dynamic elements in this dashboard, I'm talking about the elements that will change when an interactive element, a form control element, that is a combo box, a scroll bar, drop down box, is selected. Changes is information. So what I mean is the drop down, the interactive element in this second section is that drop down model that you see. The year is currently 1970, and I'm bringing all the reference elements for 1970s using the VLOOKUP function. So you notice that when I stepped into the cell that has Sudan, it has brought in Sudan using VLOOKUP. Sudan is on a table. It's from that table that shows the years, the countries, the host, and all of that. And I do a simple VLOOKUP function that refers to the year being the leftmost part of that table, and then it brings in the host, first, second, and third place. I've walked through this particular VLOOKUP routine several times, but I'm also going to link how I set up a VLOOKUP dashboard for details. If you want to see the breakdown of how to set up a VLOOKUP dashboard, I'm going to link that in the end screen as well. But I'm moving very quickly on this because this is one of the more straightforward VLOOKUP references. It's coming from a table, and the table starts with the year, and as long as the table starts with the year and I'm changing the year, I can set up a VLOOKUP in a way that every time I change the year, all the reference points, the host's name, host country, winning country, and all those details in this table you see show up. So this is essentially just VLOOKUP at work over here in this table, in this section, this second section that allows you to select a year and then see the details in that year. I also bring in colors to stand for gold, silver, and bronze, and I'm going to put the flags of the countries that took the first, second, and third place for that particular year in there. So those flags are they're dynamic. They're set up as what we call dynamic range, and then is a combination of the indirect function and named ranges that go into setting those up. I'm going to slow down one so that you see how it's set up, but if you want more details on how to set that up, I have that in my Africa dashboard, which I also have linked on this channel. I fiddle with it for a while because I'm trying to remind myself how it works. So that's why you see those error messages, error pop-ups. But essentially you name a range using the indirect reference, and when you then copy and paste a picture as a linked image, and then in the formula bar you make reference to that named range, that dynamic named range, and that makes sure that every time the name of the flag is referenced, and you can see the names in the gold, silver, bronze, first, second, and third. So those names are what is being referred to in the indirect function, and the dynamic, the linked picture picks up what is in the indirect function and converts it into an actual range. That's the work of the indirect function in Excel. And for the rest of that section, I'm using the VLOOKUP. I'm not using linked pictures. I only use the flag reference, the linked pictures, to bring in flags just for the first, second, and third place. For the rest of that section, I'm just manipulating the colors, the text colors, the background colors, so that it gives that effect of first place core line and then third place core line. So you can see the data came in with a lot of more information. Average extra time, AET. I removed that because it is evidence when you see two score lines that they went into extra time, at least for those that are very familiar with the tournament. But it was making the text too long, so I went back to do a find and replace and removed. So find the AET reference and replace it with blank text so as to remove all the references to AET in that table. So what I'm doing now in the back end, I'm setting up the by country analysis, and I'm setting up a dynamic table in the back end that looks at what is the country that is put in front of cell country. Like you can see, is Benin over here, and then it pulls in the results for Benin in that table, what their score line was or what their placement was for each of the years. And then you can see some of it is coming in symbols. Some of the return is in symbols, so I'm going to change those symbols to the actual text. And now I have it all set up. I'm going to use conditional formatting to bring in the colors for first place, second place, and third place. And first of all, I'm setting up the table with banded rows, which I did with that conditional formatting using the mod function. And now I move to the front end and I start setting up the third section. So in between, I pause to work on section 1 and I bring in the flags for each country. I bring in the flags manually, even though if you think about it, I really could have set up the flags as linked pictures, but I don't want to have too many dynamic elements working at once in an Excel dashboard, because sometimes that slows down the performance of the dashboard. So I just hard code the numbers. I hard code the flags and I copy and paste them as normal pictures and not as linked pictures, and I have to do that one after the other. And I make sure I'm bringing in the flags for the winning countries for each year. I have to do that from years 1957 to 2021. Even though it's a tournament that happens every 2 years, it's still a lot of work, so I have to pace the work in between. And in between my working on section 3, section 4, I work on the flags so that I don't get too tired. So over here, I'm setting up the conditional formatting rule that changes the year, the row of the year where the country places third place to the bronze color, where it places second place to the silver color, when it places first place to the gold color. I'm setting those up as conditional formatting rules. So because the years change, the country changes, and a country that placed first place, like Algeria, could have placed first place in 1962. I can't really see the text, apologies if I'm misquoting the stat. Algeria could have placed first place in 1962, but if I color the 1962 row permanently gold, when I change it to Burkina Faso, it's going to remain gold even if Burkina Faso did not place first place in 1962. So I have to make it dynamic, and I'm able to make it dynamic through the use of conditional formatting. Most of this dashboard is me moving text around, making text bigger, smaller. I'm going to bring in that whole third section as a linked picture. So being a linked picture, it means the build is in the back end, and what you see in the front end is just a link. Because it has several rows and I want to maximize the dashboard view, I'm always aiming to have my dashboard fit one screen so that there is no need for a vertical scroll. So to make my dashboard compact, I bring in the third section as a linked picture. Being a linked picture, it means that it's dynamic and it will change when certain variables change. So there is the ability, and I'm going to make it possible to change the variables through a list box. That's one of the form controls in Microsoft Excel. The list box essentially looks like a list of items and you can click on each item, and when you click on the item, it assumes a selection of that item, and what you would see is all the data in the table will change to match that particular item that was selected. In this instance, it's going to be a list of the countries, and when you select one country, you then see all the placement by year data change in that linked table with the one with the banded rows. And I'm then bringing in a heading section that shows the country, the region, the AFCON appearances for each table, for the third section, and of course a picture of the flag. And that picture of the flag is also a linked picture that is going to change depending on the selection of the country in the third section. So what's happening in these sections is I'm moving things around. I make a lot of changes to the styling, styling decisions on the dashboard, and that means I have to move the second section around. Like, I decide to bring in the top goal scorers because I think that's interesting information to have for each AFCON tournament year, and because of that I have to alter a lot of things on the second section. So you can see me moving, reducing the space I had allocated for the scoreline data, and I'm moving that data below. I'm doing the same for the gold, silver, bronze section that has the flags as well. I'm moving the data around. So I would usually delete this part of my walkthrough, but I left it in just to show how sometimes when I'm building a very complex dashboard, I have to move things around once I realize that the current visual is not fit for purpose for what I intend. I also experimented bringing in emojis, like star emojis, just to make the view more dramatic, but I didn't like how they looked, and that's why you see me referring to the emoji dashboard web page. But I finally take those out. I finally decide against them and take them out. So I have to walk around and tweak that allocation for the top goal scorers a little bit, a few times, just because I didn't anticipate that there will be a lot of top goal scorers per tournament, and I have to showcase all of them. So I play around with the font size so that I can take in as many player names as possible, and I then move over to the year that has the highest number of top goal scorers, just to make sure that my final font allocation, font size works no matter what year is selected. So essentially what I'm working on here is just altering that second section view, and then I finally decide to vary the response part of that second section using a patterned background which I just selected. I'm able to do that in the fill color selection. Under the fill color selection, it allows you to not only select colors but select patterns as well, and I go with the pattern approach so as to create some kind of visual variance between the section that is dynamic and changing its responses to the change in year, and the section that is static in section 2. Well, I really should have been calling them models, model 2, but you get the picture. And finally, I set up, I go back to the source data in Wikipedia to set up a table that will highlight the host country. It's an enhancement to the third model, or the third section as I've been referring to it to, but I I want the years in which a selected country was the host to be highlighted in green with a green background. So I have to set up that table that shows the different hosts by year. So this table is more ordered by country and years that they hosted. I have to process the data a little bit so that, and I make reference to this in a pretty interesting way. As you notice, I concatenated the years, and the years are all kind of listed all together, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to use the find function to identify what year is of reference. So you can see I'm setting up that find formula that I'm going to use in a conditional formatting. I'm later going to delete that column of find formulas, and I'm going to put it in a conditional reference. So it's going to be essentially replicating the find formula, but I wrap it around an is number. So if it's a number, if you return a number, if you find the year of that country in the host country years, in the host country table, and if it returns an actual number, then I need you to conditionally format that row that corresponds to a hosting year. So you can see I'm experimenting. I go with red, then blue, with purple, and then I realize that I think green, with all the other colors that are working, that are available in that third section, green is going to provide the most contrast, the highest contrast. Here I am over here experimenting with the different colors. I later finally land with green, as you will see in the final dashboard. And then I create a reference, a row reference, so that in the main view, you know that whenever you see the green highlights, it's referring to a hosting country. So in the conditional formatting, I had to play around with the order of the conditional formatting rules. It's possible for a country to host a tournament in a year and still come in first, second, or third place. So I had to make sure that the host country reference did not override the placement reference. So we're still able to see when a country hosts and either comes first, second, third, or fourth in the same year. We're able to see it, and that's is really driven by the order of the conditional formatting rules. Microsoft Excel, you know that you are able to move rules around to determine the order in which they run. And there you have it, my AFCON dashboard tutorial. Like I mentioned, the fourth section, I lost the footage for the fourth section, but I have other videos I've done in the past that talk about how I set up those kind of visuals, particularly my plant repository video. And then if you want a very detailed explanation of how to set up linked pictures with flags, such that when you change a country name, the flag picture is updated to the flag of that particular country, I also link my Africa dashboard, which I created about 4 years ago as well, in the end screen. So thank you for watching, and take care, and see you on the next one. Bye for now.